I'm with Peter Roffey, which is a voice from the past for lots of people. Was very much involved in the alternative political movement way back 100 years ago. Now a very respectable director of the Co-op, who's president, I think they call you.
I am at the moment.
Of the whole Channel Island Co-op. It's a success story, isn't it, in retail sense, business sense. It's expanding, it's buoyant, it pays its 4% dividend to the shareholders.
And 8% on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, of course. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest dividends paid out these days by a modern co-op. We're pleased with the way we've thrived over the last number of years, but we're not complacent. We know it's a competitive environment. It's going to be a tough time ahead.
I'm always mindful of the Woolworths. Woolworths could never fail. What could possibly go wrong with an organisation at the top?
Look, the Roman Empire failed, the British Empire failed, the Co-op in 400 years' time may not be here, Boots may not be here, Tesco may be something people have forgotten. So I'm not saying it will be here forever. You know, fads come, fads go. But we've been here, the Co-op, since 1844, in the Channel Islands since 1919, and I don't think we're going to go anywhere anytime soon.
It's still a fairly traditional format of retailing. Obviously there is scope to phone up more to your goods and have them delivered, I presume. I don't know, is that an activity which you encourage?
Well, we're certainly looking at the whole internet shopping experience, and I think to get the next generation of shoppers, it's absolutely vital that we invest in that, and we are making progress. We'll probably be more looking at the click and collect model rather than the home delivery, because people are busy in Guernsey and Jersey, and actually having to be at home for an hour or so for a window for people to deliver is going to be a pain for them, whereas we've got neighbourhood stores nearly all over the island. So I think click and collect is probably the model we'll go for.
One of the things that was being stressed tonight is how you're building new small stores. One of the things I've noticed about those, they're not altogether very friendly for disabled people. They're rather small, they're rather congested, not very accessible, some of those.
Yeah, disability access when you've got a small neighbourhood store can be difficult, and it's something that we ought to try and address, and I hold my hands up to that. Having said that, I think not just in the Channel Islands but nationally, the whole trend, and all of the analysts say there's going to be more and more top-up shopping, more and more convenience shopping. The days of just going for one weekly shop in the superstore are probably gone. So I think we're hitching on to a wagon that's going somewhere, but I take your criticism and I'll take that away and look at it.
One of the remarkable things, when Grand Marché opened in Jersey, I don't know what the comparable in Guernsey is, but in Jersey, that was wide open spaces. That was a breath of fresh air in retailing. It's reduced a bit, it's gone a bit more conventional, but that, when it first opened, I thought, well, this is a new standard.
Okay, we based that initially on an Amsterdam model that we went to have a look at by supermarket chain called Albert Heijn's that had a fairly revolutionary approach, and we tried it. But to be honest, although you're disappointed it's changed, I have to say the turnover went up when we went back to a more conventional model. And the business, the business sometimes has to come first.
The trends you're doing, pharmaceuticals. There was somebody talking about your funeral services in not very complimentary ways, if I can understand what Donald was talking about. But where else can you go? What sort of areas could you go into?
Oh, look, there's all sorts of areas. Co-ops have gone into all over Europe, all over the world. Social care provision, for instance, medical care possibly, care for the elderly, children's services. I'm not saying we're going to do any of those, but they all lend themselves to the cooperative model.
Because I was thinking when they were talking about pharmacies, Jersey's going to have a new hospital, there's going to have two pharmacies because it's going to be a two-part hospital. Is that the sort of area you could actually go into, providing a pharmacy for a hospital? Is that something that could be realistic?
Not something we've actually looked at, but I mean, we'll be happy to speak to Health and Social Services in Jersey if they think that there's a role for us. We are really part of the third sector. People don't understand that we are not for profit. Yes, we have to make a surplus because the opposite is making a loss and then we'll soon disappear. But we don't have big shareholders. We're not here to make, Mr. Big his fortune. So yeah, I think there is a role for the third sector going forward.
I was pleased to see the old Rochdale Pioneers got at least a mention tonight. Is this still the tail end of friendly socialism? Is this what it is about, or is it hard capitalism?
you've got to be commercial enough to survive and to make enough profit to reinvest, to be a modern trading organisation. But we must never forget that our roots are actually the fact that we are owned by our customers and we are there for them. And it is disappointing that Rochdale Pioneer legacy has been tarnished by the Co-op Group's failures recently. But actually look around the world, look in France, look in Italy, look in Scandinavia, look at many of the independents in Britain. It's a model that works, and we intend that it should carry on working. And yes, it is probably rooted in socialism. And the fact that a basically socialist organisation has thrived and been successful in the Channel Islands, not really left of centre traditionally, is really amazing. But Channel Islanders do care about their pockets.
There was a bit of a quasi-political activity going on outside now about the Pitt Street buildings. I don't want to discuss that as such, but it made me think a lot of co-ops in the UK used to be rather more openly supportive of political groups. Labour co-op used to be quite a big sponsorship. It's not something the co-op's ever done in the Channel Islands.
No.
But the softer things like disability groups, actively politically campaigning, human rights groups, is that the sort of area do you think that the co-op could sponsor?
We're never going to get, well, we do sponsor a lot of those things. We have sponsored a lot of environmental initiatives, for instance. We've actually sponsored the National Trust quite heavily, so we may disagree slightly on tone over Pitt Street and Jemerick Street, but in many ways we're very supportive of what they do. And yes, in disability areas and everything else, yes, of course we are. But what we're not going to become is overtly party political or... Well, there are no parties. There are parties in Jersey now, aren't they? I haven't quite worked them out yet.
They're looking at them, they're trying to get one going. Years ago, used to be involved in a little magazine called Radical Island Press. The co-op in the Channel Islands hasn't really done anything similar. Could it do a little sort of social newspaper of that sort?
Look, we have a small management team and I don't want to stretch them and distract them from their core duty. It's a really competitive environment. If I told our chief executive he had to go down and write articles about things for a new alternative magazine, I might be taking his eye off the ball. So nice idea, but there must be young radicals out there, nothing to do with a co-op, just people who have just come out of university or whatever, or people at Holier where we are now. They ought to be doing that, not the co-op. We're too stuffy these days to do that sort of thing.
They ought to be doing it indeed, but unfortunately they don't.
And what about Mike Dunn? You know, not just a blog. No. Why just a blog? Why don't you actually get a magazine going, Mike?
Well, we've tried
that will get edited, won't it?
No, it won't. Whatever you say gets published.
Okay.
Nice to speak to you.
Likewise. Bye-bye.